Hey everybody, what's up and welcome back. And today we're going to talk about my favorite baits for fall fishing. So we're going to get into this. I'm going to show you some of my favorite baits that I like to fish for fall, for catching fall bass. So stay tuned. Alright everybody, welcome back. And yeah, today we're going to dive into my favorite baits that I like to fish for fall fishing. And some of these baits are some of my favorite baits I like to throw year round. But this is, pretty much what I like to chuck when I fish in the fall. I mean, just great baits will get you fish, and it's a good way to find the fish, and just some of my favorite stuff that I like to throw. So first thing I'm going to talk about right out the gate is crankbaits. I love throwing a crankbait. You can't go wrong with throwing a crankbait. You can throw them year round, but they work really great in the fall. You can bounce it off wood, you can bounce it off rocks, you can throw shallower ones or deeper ones depending on where the fish are at. But a good all-around one to start with is just a straight up square bill. Now I'm going to show you a couple different square bill colors I like. So you guys can see. So I have a couple of these in a crappie color, which is a super nice square bill. Let me see if I can hold this right here. This is actually a 6 cents one in a crappie pattern, and this is phenomenal. Any place you're fishing that's got crappie in it, this is going to get you some fish, man, because bass hate crappie. So this is a great one. This is a square bill made by 6 cents. Love that one. I've got one that has a rattle in it, one that is silent. This is another one that's made by 6 cents. This is called the Gilligan. I love this color. Represents a brim, bluegill type pattern, and yeah, that's going to get you hammered. And then of course you got to have some crawl pattern colors as well, because they are feeding up on crawls, and if they got crawls in and things. I'm going to show you two different colors right here that I got. It's another nice crawl pattern right there. And then I've got this really dark crawl pattern. And this dark crawl pattern, if you're fishing stained water, oh man, if you fish with that muddy stained water, this is a killer. This is a really great bait. I love square bill crankbaits. Go crazy on them. I'm going to show you a couple different ones. And then I also have a few smaller ones. So if I start seeing smaller bait in the water, I'll throw these ones. These are like a 1.0. These are a little bitty, smaller ones. But man, do they get crushed or not. These are all 6 cents, by the way, if you guys are wondering. Love a good square bill bite. You can't go wrong with it. And even these ones that 6 cents make that are black, like that black one, I've caught big bass on this. It's crazy. Muddy water, take that out, and boom, you got fish. So square bills are a really great way to go. You can fish them. You can just do a straight retrieve back. You can do a stop and go retrieve. What I like to do is reel, and every time I bump into something, every time I hit something, I stop for a second. Like I'll be real long, I'll feel that bump, and I just stop and start reeling again. And a lot of times when you hit that pause, that fish will be chasing it. When you pause it, they're going to either hit it on the pause, or as soon as you start to crank back up, that fish is going to grab it because it's starting to get away. So I'll do a straight retrieve one time, and I'll cast it back out, and I'll do a crank, 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 pause, crank, 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 pause, crank, 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 pause, like that, and then I'll reel it, and then if I bump into something, I'm pausing, and yeah, just a great way to catch fish. Great way to search for fish. If you're looking for them, you're not sure where they're at, it's just a great way to find them and actually get on some fish, and I love it. It's one of my favorite ways to fish. I love throwing crankbaits. There's nothing wrong. Now, the other type of crankbait that I like to throw is a lipless crank, and these things are phenomenal. I mean, phenomenal. I love throwing a lipless crank. And just so you know, on the crankbaits, before we dive into lipless, is you can also throw, if you got to get into the deeper water and stuff, then you can throw something that's a little bit deeper diver. It's got a little bit bigger bill on them as well. If you see the fish suspended, these are great ones to get down there too as a crankbait. But I usually always start off with a square bill, and then I might work my way into this if I'm in the deep water. Because I'm throwing up, pitching in the grass and shallows, I'm throwing the square bill. And as I get out in the deeper water, I'll throw a bait more like this, and they work. But now let's get into the lipless cranks. I love lipless cranks, and I'm going to show you a few different colors of them as well. I'm digging in my tackle box right now. I'll show you kind of the varieties that I like to throw. I'm going to kind of show you just three colors I know, I'm digging in here because they're all tangled up. That's terrible. What a mess, what a mess. Alright, we got them. So anyway, my first go-to one is always this one. Shad pattern like this. I think this one is made by Rapala, if I remember correctly. Maybe not, but this is my favorite go-to one. I love this one. This one has caught me more fish than probably any other one that I have. And I actually haven't been able to find this size lately, so I need to get another one because if I lose this one, I'm kind of going to be in trouble. But I love this one, the shad pattern. So that's a perfect one to go to on any place, pond, lake, whatever you're fishing. This one right here, the shad color, yeah, boom, done deal. Then I have one that's more of a brim type color. Right here, it's still a shad pattern, but it's got a little bit more brown in it. And this works really good in clearer water, and it works good in stained water as well. And this is really good one. So that's the next one I'll throw. And then the last one that I love to throw is a good old crawdad pattern. And this one has a little bit of orange belly. This is made by Strike King. And I love this bait, and this bait has caught me a lot of bass as well. So those are the three lipless that I love to throw. And all you got to do with these, you can cast them out and just reel them back if you want to, or you can cast them out and do what I'll do is I'll be reeling it and I'll just drag it and then reel it and let it fall, and drag it sideways, reel it, let it fall, drag it sideways, reel it my slack and let it fall. And what that bait is doing is going like this across, and then as it goes across, when you do that pause, it falls like this, and then it goes like this and falls. Now you can also do what's called a yo-yo, and I do that a lot too. These are the two techniques I use. I'll either do the drag it, where I drag it and then it falls, and drag it and then it falls, or I do the yo-yo where it goes up and then falls, and then up and then falls, and then up and then falls. And you can hear those rattles as it's doing it, it's making that noise. So the yo-yo is just yo-yoing it up, and you just reel it up, you just yo-yo it up, and then you reel down to it, and then you yo-yo it up, and then you reel down to it, and you yo-yo it up, and then you reel down to it. And that bait's just gonna rip and then fall, and then rip and then fall. And usually they hit it on the fall. Like when you rip it up, as soon as that bait starts falling, that's when you get your strikes. Same thing when you're ripping it sideways. Is when you rip it sideways, as it's falling is usually when the fish hit it. But this is a great bait. You can fish it at all kinds of different depths. You can fish it shallow, you can fish it mid-column, and you can fish it deep. And most of the time when I throw these, especially now, I'll let it go all the way to the bottom, and then I just start ripping it off the bottom, and I start working that and stuff. And then, when I'm in the spring and the summer, I usually do it, 5, 8, or 10 count, and then I start yo-yoing it and stuff. And then when I'm really in the summer, same thing. It's usually 5 or 8, 10 count. And I'm just trying to check those different depths, and I'm looking at my fish finder, and if I see what depth they're at, I know, if they're at 5 feet, then I'm going to count down, I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm usually in that zone, and then I'm yo-yoing it in that zone. If they're at 8 feet, I'm going to count down to 8, and so on and so forth. But if you don't have a fish finder, you just got to kind of play with it until you figure out where they're at, and start figuring out what that count is. And if you're counting down to 10, and that's where you're getting the bites, then keep doing that. But lipless cranks, phenomenal, and you can throw lipless year-round. I use it year-round, and I catch fish. In the summertime, when those fish are deep, I'll throw this thing, and I'll get fish. So, my favorite baits. Now, another bait that I like to throw, and if you guys have not tried it out yet, is what's called the baby bull shad. And I've got 3 colors that I like, and 3 colors that I use, and the first one, and this is kind of my go-to, is this white, and this is a Swimbait. Has all this action and stuff, and these things are awesome. And then I've got one that's another shad pattern, a little silver with purple on it, and then I've got more of a brim color one, if I can get the hooks out of my hand, just like that. So these are great baits. You just throw them out, you let them sink, and you retrieve them back at whatever depth you want, or you can throw it out and just retrieve it across the surface, create a wake. If you see those fish that are biting on top, this is like just a subsurface one that'll come across and it creates wake, and they'll come up and smash it, or I'll let it fall down and stuff. And you can even jerk this like a twitch bait, because I've done it, and you can jerk it, and it has all these erratic actions, and I've caught fish doing that. So there's a lot of different techniques you can use to fish these, but the basic one is just cast it out, let it count down whatever depth you want, and just slowly crank it back. And do a crank, pause, crank, pause, and that'll usually get you the fish. These are great baits. They're phenomenal. I love them. They're not the cheapest things in the world. They're like $16 a piece. So you definitely, if you ain't got a lot of money, you don't want to be losing a bunch of those. So, but they're great baits, and you should definitely try them out. And so the next thing I like to fish a lot is, and my next ones that I love, and this goes along with it, is a spinnerbait. And I'm only going to show you one color because this is probably the main color I throw all the time, which is chartreuse and white. And it is the Willow Blades, and one silver, one gold. This is actually a custom one that I had made for me, and I love these things, and I just catch them, and I fish them with and without trailers. Just depends on how I'm feeling that day. Most of the time I'll put a little trailer on it. Just take a swim bait of some sorts. You can take and pair it up. You can pair it up with a Z-Man on the back like this. You can pair it up with a swim bait like that on the back. Whatever you want to do. But these are awesome. You can bounce these over wood, throw them over the rocks. You can actually jig a blade. I don't know if you guys ever done that, but you can just jig this and let it fall, and those blades will do it and do that. And I've actually caught a lot of fish doing that as well. I fish it like a lipless crank sometimes, and they'll catch fish. So really straight retrieve back, jigging it, letting it fall, pauses, like pause it and stuff. That'll get you bites. And a spinnerbait is just a great bait. It's a great search bait. You can throw this and bounce it over wood and into trees. I mean, I'll pitch it way up into trees and stuff and lay downs and reel it out, and just you'll hammer fish, man. So you can't go. But this is pretty much my go-to color. It's either chartreuse and white or white. I think I have mostly in mine are chartreuse and white or white, and then I have like one black one. And those are the only colors I throw. But usually chartreuse and white is it, because I fish, most of the lakes and stuff I fish where I live are semi-stained or stained water. So this is my go-to for spinnerbait. So love those. Great, phenomenal bait. You can't go wrong with them, and you'll hammer fish. So the next bait that I like to throw, and this is the favorite one that I throw a lot, is the chatterbait. Now I got two different ones. I got the Z-Man chatterbait, and then I got the Thunder Cricket. Alright, so the Z-Man chatterbait, this one right here is not that expensive. They're like $5.99 or something like that, $4.99, and this one's a good go-to. But I really like these Thunder Crickets as well from Strike King, but these are a little more expensive. They're like $16. So if you're on a budget, this is one to go with. I fish a lot of these, and I fish a lot of these. I'm fortunate enough that I get a lot of these in my Monster Bass box, so I basically stock up on these through my Monster Bass box, so you guys should check them out as well. But yeah, these are the two that I throw, and I throw either green pumpkin, blueback, or white. I put a trailer on it. I usually use like a Googan Baits Crack and Crawl or a Googan Baits Bandito Bug as a trailer on the back, or I'll even use a Swimbait. You can even use one of these again. Oh, that's not the Swimbait. You can use one of these again in whatever color you want, and you can put that on the back as a trailer as well. The trailer is personal preference. Most of the time I use a crawl type trailer on mine. So yeah, these are awesome. You can throw them across grass. You can bounce across rocks. You can throw them in wood, but you will get snagged up more because these don't deflect like a spinnerbait does. I mean, I will throw it up in a pile of wood, but you will get hung up more because they're not as weedless. So just keep that in mind. Most of the time I'm fishing this, I'm chucking up across rocks or over by grass or things like that, or in openings and stuff, and letting it go down to the bottom and then reeling it across the bottom. But chatterbait's a really great bait, search bait, and you will hammer fish on chatterbaits. I love chatterbaits and spinnerbaits as well, and these are also baits that I fish year round, but they're really great for fall fishing, so definitely try them out as well. And then we're going to talk about jerk baits. Now that I got a pile of mess here that I got to clean up, we're going to talk about jerk baits. And I'm just going to show you a couple jerk baits. So, I love throwing a jerk bait. It's another bait that I throw year round. Here's a couple different colors. Jerk baits work great. Some are floating, some are suspending, some are sinking, depending on where the fish are at, depends on which one you're going to throw. Most of the time I throw the floating ones in the summertime. I throw the suspending ones in spring and fall and winter, and the sinking ones in winter as well. And I'll throw the sinking ones in the summer too, but I usually tend to use the floating ones more in the summer. But some have rattles, some don't. Just depends on what the fish are biting that day. Most of my colors that I have are almost a shaddy type pattern. It's usually what I use. I do have a couple that are perch color and brim color, but if you notice, I'll reach in here. Like my next one is like a purple shad, and then I've got a ripstop by Rapala, which is another shiny flash one as well. They all work good. I don't remember, most of these are Rapalas or Strike King type stuff. They all work really great. And then I just got this Rapala one in as well. This is the Suspending Bait. I really love these. Super awesome. But these are really easy to fish. I mean, all you do is cast this out there. And then you just reel it down, and then you just give it a jerk. You know, it's like a jerk. You know, jerk, 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 you know, so it's going to go boom, and then doom, doom, and you're just making it, you're creating it to make it look like a wounded fish. And if you guys have watched my videos, and there's tons of videos that'll show you how to fish a jerk bait, but it's really easy. The bigger ones you can throw on bait casters, the smaller ones, because they make little ones, you throw those on spinning gear. A lot of guys will throw even the bigger ones on spinning gear versus a bait caster. I do both. It just depends on the size of the bait to what reel I'm going to use. And they're just amazing baits. So you definitely want to try out jerk baits. Just like I said, just cast it out there and it's like jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause, jerk, jerk, pause. You know, and you can do a 1 and then a 1, 2 and then a 1, 2, 3, or a 1, a 1, 2, a 1, 1, 2, 3. Just change it up. I mean, you really want to change up what you're doing and just keep changing it up until you figure out what action those fish are liking. And then once you figure that out and dial it in, then you just keep going with that. And you'll figure it out. I mean, it just takes, you know, out there fishing it and trying out new lures and see what you like. But jerk baits are great. And I love them, and I fish them all the time. And yes, you can fish them year-round. There's a lot of people, year-round, excuse me. There's a lot of people that don't fish them a lot in the summer, but I do, and I catch fish on them. And if you watch my videos, you see me catch a fish on them even in the summertime. It's a great, really great spring and fall bait, but it really works throughout the year. So don't think you can't throw them throughout the year. And then the last one I want to talk about is swim baits. I love, love, love throwing swim baits, and you can throw it on a bladed jig head or a non-bladed jig head. It depends on what you want. I'm going to show you a couple different styles of jig heads. You can use, let me dig in here. You can have one that doesn't have a swivel on it like this and throw it on it, or you can have one, this actually has a joint in it, and these ones actually allow that bait to move like this from the head, and I really like these a lot. It gives the bait a lot of action. You can get different weights, different sizes. Depends on what you're fishing and where you're fishing. I tend to have, you know, like 2 or 3 different size weights for each one. And then we'll talk about different kinds of swim baits. I'm going to show you just a couple different ones. A lot of it's Z-Man, so you can throw the diesel minnows like this. This is a diesel minnow right here. These are a bigger size. Those were 3-inch. This is a 4-inch diesel minnow like that. They're all paddle tails. And then you can throw ones like this as well. There's so many different types of swim baits out there that you can throw, and I just love swim baits, man. They're just phenomenal. Just great baits to fish with and throw. And I'm gonna take one of these out of the packs for you guys as well and kind of show you what you can pair it up with. So. And I need to show you the other two. So, simple swim bait. It's just a paddle tail swim bait. See if you guys can see that like that. Z-Man, this is a 4-inch swim bait right there. Love these things. Z-Man just lasts, man. Just lasts. I mean, you can't go wrong throwing Z-Man baits. And most of the colors I throw are some sort of shady pattern. Even, you know, they'll be darker. Like I use root beer colors and minnow type colors and stuff like that. Genre colors. And then a blade bait jig as well. That's one with a blade on it, so you guys can see. So if you don't want to throw one like this that doesn't have a blade on it, you can throw one like this that has a blade on it. And the reason why you do that is this mimics it being more than one fish, so they think it's a 1 or 2 or 3 more fish, because that gives that a little more flash. Also allows them in dirtier water to hone in on it better with that flash going on. And both will work. Depending on the conditions. Some days this one works better and they don't want the flash, and some days this one works better because they do want the flash. So that's just all a matter of getting out on the water and figuring out which one's there after that day. And it's all about figuring out the patterns of the fish, because the patterns change every day. I mean, one day, and you guys know if you fish a lot, you go out there, one day you'll have an epic day and you go out there, and then you go out there a day or two later and all of a sudden it's turned off, they're not biting, and you're like, you know, what just happened? You know, you're confused. But that's just how it is. It's fishing, you know, and fish get in moods just like we get, and some days they're feeding hot and heavy and some days they're not. So it's a matter of just figuring out what they want and everything and what they're looking for that day. And so I usually take it, you know, most of the time when I'm fishing on my boat, I have 4 or 5 rods. And I have something tied up for each one, and I usually have something that's in the top of the column, middle of the column, and the bottom of the column. Now, as we get more into fall fishing, I don't fish the topwater much anymore. I'm usually fishing subsurface, middle, or bottom. But I still will try, because if I see fish blowing up on the top, I'll still throw topwater, because they will bite topwater even in the fall. So don't think they won't. So you need to try that. And then when it gets to topwater and stuff, I'm throwing Whopper Poppers most of the time, just because it creates a lot of commotion on the water and really gets those fish to look up. That's kind of my go-to for topwaters. I mean, I do fish frogs too, but in the fall, it's usually Whopper Popper is what I'm searching with that, or a popper of some type, or a walking bait of some type. So there you guys go. Those are my main ones that I love to fish in the fall. They're great baits. They will catch you fish, and there's so many different varieties out there. You just have to pick what you like, find something that you like, and go out there and try it out and see if it works. You know, I test out and try a lot of different baits to see what works for me. I've come to find the ones that I really like that are my confidence baits, and that's what you want to find. You want to find those baits that you have confidence in, that you know you can catch fish with, and go out there and catch some fish. Now, I didn't touch base on some finesse stuff, because I will try some finesse stuff. If the bite gets really tough, I will step into the Z-Man realm of finesse fishing, and I'll downsize my baits, and that's something to do. But we'll do that on another video, because this one was about my top baits that I really like to throw in the fall. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that helps you guys out when you're trying to figure out what you want to fish this time of year. And that's all I got, man. That's it. So if you guys can do me a favor and hit that like button, that subscribe button, that ding dong button, because all that stuff helps me out with my YouTube channel. And just do yourself a favor, get out there, get your lines wet, and catch some fish.